everybody, it's Safi and Marco, Dish Out on the Movies. And today we're reviewing a brand new movie that just came out yesterday called The Batman. And
That's all it's called?
that's all it's called
It's
because
not-
nothing much happens in the movie.
Yeah, I mean, it's not called, like, Batman Rise into Insanity. It's not called Batman Find the Rat. It's not called Batman Riddle Me Rat. You know, it's just called The Batman. Like, are you sure?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's very creative.
Not.
Very innovative and original and fresh and new. And, like, why don't they just do that with every movie? Like, just never cut, like, just call everything just one thing. Like, instead of...
How about Pippi Longstocking? The Pippi Longstocking.
Or
a little biography about Clara Barton, the first nurse.
that'll just be
The
called
Clara Barton.
The Clara Barton. What else? I mean, what other movies?
The Alfred Hitchcock.
The Alfred Hitchcock. Well, they did. They made a movie called Hitchcock.
Oh. Well,
course.
that's a biography or something.
That's more common with biographies, because with biographies, it's always
Oh, it's about the person.
last name. Like
Yeah.
they did that stupid Tubman or Harriet, and then they did one that, you know, they always call them like the first or the last names. But this movie,
Anyway, the movie was, I think, a little over 3 hours, and they're just for that much time. Now, we saw a movie recently that wasn't new. It was a Justice League movie, which took that much time, but a ton of stuff happened. In fact, he threw everything in, including the kitchen sink. It was a director's cut, and
that movie was way better than this.
yeah, if you're going to watch a movie, well, I feel like it doesn't matter how long it is. Something should happen in it, and it should be a lot livelier.
Like, something should happen. Like,
Especially
anything.
a Batman movie.
Anything. Not this. Whatever this is, take it, pick it up, and throw it in the trash, along with all the actors. Because let's go down the line, Safi. Okay, let's start off with the star the star of the movie.
Well,
Batman.
he did more acting in his movie called Lighthouse.
He's done more acting in every other movie he's been in, even
That's
Twilight.
the one I saw, and I didn't even see any Twilight, anything.
Safi, he did a better job in the second Twilight movie.
I think he had to because things happened.
He was hardly in the second Twilight movie, but he still did a better job than this.
Well, I don't even know. It wasn't just that he didn't do a good job. I don't think he was giving anything because he had hardly any lines.
He literally just stares into space. He cries. He mopes about. He sulks. He puts on eye makeup like a girl. You know, he can barely fight. I mean, he literally... This is Batman. He literally doesn't fight. Like, he just twirls his arms around and all sorts... Like, he takes his forearm and he just, like, twirls it around, and then magically people fall down. That's literally how Batman fights in this Batman movie. It is probably the worst. Well, everything about this movie is the worst. This is the worst comic book movie I've ever seen. It's the worst Batman movie I've ever seen. It's not the worst movie of the year, because there's been some movies with much poorer quality, like The King's Daughter and other movies like that. But that's not saying much, you know. Just because an F is higher than an F minus, that's not something to be proud of. And this movie, you know, that really explains. See, what just happened is that there's some Beaver Creek rednecks, and they're like sitting in the parking lots,
playing with their engines,
like pressing the gas pedal like they're fucking retarded. And so that's basically, and they're not even driving. That's the fun. That's what this movie really is. That this movie, that what they just did, that perfectly describes this entire piece of shit 3-hour movie. You know, nothing really happens. You just have a car with two faggots, and they're just pressing on the gas pedal and saying "yee-dee," and then nothing really happens. You know, that's this fucking movie. It sucks. It sucks bat balls, and it's terrible. I hate it. It was probably one of the worst movie experiences I've ever had watching this movie. Like, I just wanted it to end, and I looked at the runtime, and I thought, oh, fuck, there's an hour left? I'd rather jump off a cliff than watch the rest of this trash. And I mean, even though I hated Zack Snyder's Justice League, it was never like that when I watched that movie. Like, I enjoyed the experience the first time, and so it was not like that, even though it was even longer than this movie. That just shows how trash this movie is. And but let's go down. Well, just give your general thoughts, and then we'll go down the line, Safi.
I just thought it was really boring, and it surprised me. I just feel like the Batman movies of the past.
Way better.
I really enjoyed them all. Really.
Yeah.
I mean, all of them. They were redeeming in some way. Even that color show that was, I think it was in the 60s. I watched it, but I was a kid. I just don't remember. But a lot more happened. They would even write on the screen whenever they pretend hit somebody. Wham! Boom!
That was more entertaining than this.
They wrote that out on the screen.
A lot more entertaining than this shit.
And it was just boring. And it was 3 hours.
3 hours.
And I feel like I have so much to do. I'm sitting here, and you know what I did while I watched the movie?
Oh, we don't want to know about
I
that.
mended a sheet. There was a tear in it, and it was a original Star Wars sheet that my brother-in-law had when he was a kid.
Well, we should explain. We watched the movie on YouTube, too. Because we weren't going to go to the theaters and pay to see this movie.
Because it cost a lot to go to the movie nowadays. And even though we would always try to go like in a matinee time, and I would hate to waste all that money, and then you buy snacks.
I'd be so pissed off if I went to see this in theaters. I will walk out like 20 minutes into it.
Well,
like,
you probably wouldn't, because since it's Batman, you would think that
I
you would
wanna
be
leave.
waiting for something to happen.
That's
what I was during the whole movie. I was thinking, is something going to happen now?
As soon as this movie began, I knew exactly what type of movie this was going to be. In fact, it was so bad that it was laughably bad. I started laughing my ass off at this hilariously bad movie. Just these hilarious moments, like the beginning, and Batman has like a diary, and he's like narrating his little diary entries, and it just. Ugh.
Well, we should tell them who the villains were.
The villain was
and the main one.
Oh, it was
the one that it was mostly about, but then they showed quite a bit of another.
It was the Zodiac Killer.
No.
And yeah, it was. It was not the Riddler at all.
Well, they said it was the Riddler, and he was all covered up, and all that showed were his glasses. He looked like he was preparing for a gas attack. Like,
he looked like a World War I soldier or something.
It was really weird. I've never, we've always seen the Riddler, even Jim Carrey, and the guy from the '60s, Henry Gorsham. That's probably not right. It's Gorsham, but the first name. Anyway, they wore like leotard outfits, and then on TV there was a Riddler. He kind of wore like a nice suit. And he was always dressed very impeccably and nice. And they were more the Riddler than this guy.
Yeah,
this guy was like a high school kid, and he was laughing.
Well, let's go down the line, because that's what I wanted to do.
Oh, okay.
So let's start off with the star of the star of the movie, Twilight Boy. And I've seen all of his movies, I know. He can act. He can act. Like, F off. Like,
okay.
I know he can act. He's an actor. If he can't act, then why is he a fucking actor?
Marco, don't swear.
Fuck off with that shit. Safi, this guy, he's an actor. Why would he not be able to act?
I don't know.
That's just insane.
And they didn't give him that many lines. So even if he'd wanted to act, all they made him do was stare.
Let's be honest. He's not Batman. He is
Twilight Boy.
Twilight Boy.
Whatever else.
Feminine Boy. That's what he's like in this movie. It's just Twilight wearing a Batman costume, and he is so weak and pathetic. And there's one point where he's moping around about token Catwoman, and he's listening to this recording where she says something that, makes him jealous and upset, and he's like moping around about this little thieving biatch. And I'll talk about Catwoman. But just what a weak and pathetic Batman. Like, literally, this is the worst Batman I've ever seen. George Clooney is a better Batman. Val Kilmer is a better Batman. This Batman was horrible. And he was really just a completely pathetic portrayal. All he did was just, he just spoke in the same tone the whole movie. The same, like, I'm sad. I'm very sad. I'm going to cry. I'm going to fight the Penguin. I'm going to fight the Riddler. Like, that's how he talked the whole movie. He had no range at all. He had nothing. He was hardly even Bruce Wayne the whole movie, too. That was another thing. Was that this character is supposed to be multiple characters. It's not just supposed to be the Batman. He's supposed to, that's what everyone said. Everyone says when they talk about who's going to be the Batman, they talk about, okay, is he going to be able to play Bruce Wayne and Batman? Is he going to be able to play those different characters? Or is he just going to be good at one and that's it?
He wasn't good at either one of them.
Well, this one, all he did was one character. He never played Bruce Wayne in this movie. Never.
No, they hardly
Never.
showed Bruce Wayne at all.
Ever.
They showed a funeral.
He wasn't even that much of a hero either. He wasn't even heroic. You wanted... would you call this Batman a hero, Safi? He was basically a fucking detective. That's all he was. He's starring this movie's like Batman in CSI, with Batman in it, basically, with this elementary crime, this elementary case. And it's like, you know what? Monk would have already had this case solved, like, yesterday. Like, this case was so... It was
way over too long, and they could have cut it probably into a third of what it was, because nothing happened.
Nothing happened. And I'll talk specifically, because literally, Safi, I'm not kidding, within the first 20 seconds of the movie, I knew what the story... I solved the case. That's just pathetic. And then there's this... Well,
you know who the bad person is, because he never makes a secret about who he... Well, you got confused of his appearance, of course, because, like I said, he looks absolutely nothing like any Riddler I've ever seen in any other previous
to be fair,
Batman show or movie.
Riddler wasn't even portrayed as the villain of the movie.
Well, he wasn't the only one. They showed the Penguin, who didn't even look like the Penguin. And then they showed some kind of a mobster guy, and he was the best. He had a lot more lines than Batman and the Riddler and
Falcone. He really, John Turturro. I could have watched a whole movie with just him as the main villain. because he was the only. But that's getting ahead of Batman. So let's just say Batman was not really heroic in this movie at all.
Right.
He hardly did anything heroic. They made him dark. They corrupted him. They corrupted his character. And it's funny because, they corrupted Superman, ruined him with Man of Steel, and now they got to corrupt and ruin Batman. This movie did a worse job at ruining Batman than Ben Affleck's Batman. Excuse me, I'd rather watch Ben Affleck's Batman 20 million times before I ever watch this track, because I'm never going to watch this movie again, that's for sure.
Either. I don't want to waste my time, and it was a waste of my time. I'm not happy about it.
Safi, we had this over Ben Affleck.
At least I mended the sheet, which is really, I don't like mending.
It's
boring.
We had this Batman over Ben Affleck's Batman, Safi.
Yeah.
Just think about that. Was that really a good trade-off, Safi? No. That was like trading off spaghetti for a bologna sandwich. So, let's move on to who's the next character you want to talk about?
Catwoman. She was in it too.
Token Catwoman.
And she wasn't... I guess she did a little bit of pretend fighting, but she really didn't do much in the movie either.
She kicked her foot around and swayed back and forth while Batman stared at her in sadness.
And she showed her face. I don't get that either.
God, she was so trash.
She has some kind of cover on her face, but didn't cover the whole face. So if you were if you knew her and you didn't know she was Catwoman, you would know she was Catwoman because you wouldn't recognize her. That's how bad I don't know what it was she had on her face. I didn't get it.
She had a Christmas cap on that had it was a black Christmas cap or something.
I don't know, but she
get
wasn't disguised at all.
Spencer's Gifts Catwoman outfit.
I don't know.
I mean,
and she was very one note. We were discussing this before we were doing the review.
She had
no range of acting
a piece
whatsoever.
Of cardboard, like a cardboard cutout playing Catwoman. She literally just made the same face the whole movie. She never had any range at all. She never even acted at all the whole movie. The only thing that she did, besides being another tokenized Catwoman, is that she had a little agenda line where she had this extremely racist, disgusting, unnecessary line where she was telling Batman, who gives a fuck about those white privileged motherfuckers, and it's like, fuck off, you fucking tokenized trash cardboard cutout Catwoman. I mean, F off. I mean, what a complete piece of shit character. What a disgrace. And you know what? It's funny because that completely debunked. As soon as she said that racist line, I knew. Oh, let's talk about all those people who said they cast her because of her talent. They cast her because she's a talented actress. Ugh. I don't think so.
Not in this movie, anyway.
I've seen Californication season 4. She's trash.
I don't know.
And you wouldn't know but as soon as she said that line, I knew exactly why they cast her. Literally, the only reason they cast her is so that she could spout off an agenda, a racist, anti-white agenda line in the movie. And that was the only reason she was cast. If they didn't have that line in the movie, they would have cast a white woman to play Catwoman. I can guarantee you. It's the same thing like with the Child's Play remake, where you had the detective, and he says the watermelon patch line, so they cast a black person to say that line, and tokenize the character, ruining the character. The same thing happened in this movie. And not only that, she was... I mean, guys, I am so effing sick of seeing Batman fawning over Catwoman. Safi, stop. Fawning over Catwoman, like thirsting over Catwoman. This thug, this evil, murdering, former prostitute, thief, You know, like, if I was Batman, I would have curb stomped this bitch, like, a long time ago. If she tried to touch me, I would curb stomp her all the way to Arkham. She's a villain, and she's evil, and I'm so sick of this stupid-ass shit with Batman and Catwoman romance. Just get that out of here now. Get Catwoman out. Put her in Arkham, curb stomp her, give her brain damage, get her out of here. Nobody likes her, nobody wants her, this cardboard cutout character. Ugh. And she's so dumb. Her character is so dumb that she dresses up as Catwoman with all of her windows wide open so that Batman can look in like it's effing Rear Window watching her dress up as Catwoman. How do you explain that, Safi? How do you explain... Safi, stop that.
I need a drink.
How do you explain a person who has to hide their identity leaving all their windows wide open?
No, the windows aren't wide open. It's the fact that there's no curtains.
Yeah, so anyone can look in there
no curtains,
and
no nothing.
see, oh, look, there's that woman undressing.
Oh, look, she's Catwoman.
She's Catwoman. Oh, never would have known that if she kept her windows shut, covered. So we've...
Okay, well, let's move on.
We've dissected Catwoman.
How about Alfred? Let's talk about him. Actually, I liked Alfred, except at one part where he showed that he wasn't very smart.
Alfred. This is the worst Alfred in history. I mean,
okay. He was
Safi, by
dumb.
Every other Alfred is better than this Alfred. Every other one.
He did do this puzzle with words.
Yeah, he did a word puzzle.
Well, it was like a decoding a message. So it was what do you call it?
He did a puzzle.
Well, I just say it's a puzzle, but it's a certain thing where like.
He literally he does nothing. He's trash. There's
not
something
on the screen very much.
Well, we can't talk. We'll talk about that in the spoiler section because there's something that he does that is just so mind-numbingly stupid that it just made me start laughing at this old man. Who's next? You want to talk about?
Okay, well, let's see the Riddler.
Okay, the Riddler. He was not the Riddler. He was the Zodiac Killer. He looked nothing like the Riddler. He acted nothing like the Riddler. He had an Instagram account. The Riddler would never use the internet. That's for damn sure. So you got this, like, internet nerd Riddler, and he's like it's kind of like a stereotyping. Like, this is a typical radicalized young white male. And he's got all these radicalized young white male followers. And he was so trash, and they even changed his name. Instead of Edward Nygma, which that's his name, they changed it to Edward Nashton to make it more grounded and realistic, right, Safi? It's got to be realistic if it's a comic book movie.
It was dumb.
Yeah. Who's next?
Oh, the Mobster.
The Mobster was good. I liked Falcone. He was actually good. I would watch him as the villain for the whole movie. He did a good job, but he was still, it was predictable. Everything with him, there was a storyline with him where it was like straight out of the X-Files, with the stupid ass twist, unneeded twist with him. And then who else? Well, Token Lieutenant Gordon. He's another diversity hire. He was only cast because this Gordon, he says in the movie, he doesn't trust any police officers in the station. And so, it's because, and so he's Safi, and that's why they cast him. Because you got to have the anti-police agenda.
He was pretty quiet, though. It's just like, that was the weirdest thing. Like,
I mean,
for the most part, these actors quiet.
They were very
They didn't say
quiet.
anything. They didn't get any lines.
But the thing is that Gordon,
Except for the mobster.
the real Gordon, in the Nolan trilogy, he trusted certain police officers, and he said he had like police officers he could trust. But this one, he doesn't trust any police officer, and we know why. And he's like going around with Batman the entire movie. They're like riding around together as partners, solving cases, and it's so obnoxious. Like it's so it's just so stupid to like see this, like it's like a procedural, and it's like, I just want to see Batman. I didn't come here to see him and Gordon like running around together interrogating people, and see the faggots are back again. Sorry about that, guys. We didn't ask the faggots to come back. So
I don't know
Safi,
what they're doing.
what do you have to say about Token Gordon?
Well, I just thought I thought he was pretty quiet, and he didn't really show that much emotion.
Yeah, well, he did the same old. I mean, every single actor in this movie, they just had the same range of emotion the whole movie.
Which was nothing much.
And then who's the next character, Safi?
I don't know, Marco. Did we talk about the penguin?
No. Well, the thing with him was I liked the way that he looked. He didn't smoke any cigar, though, which I don't know why that would be. I mean, that was really kind of embarrassing. It's another...
Just stuck it in his mouth and pretended. He didn't even do that.
They just at every opportunity possible to destroy these characters and take away from what made them the characters from the comics. They took it away. And the Penguin, he was fine. He was fine, but he really wasn't the Penguin. He was just, generic. Like, his voice was very generic sounding because, he's Irish or whatever he is. And so he had to change it, because that's Colin Farrell.
It's so hard to believe when you tell me that. And I'm thinking about him, and I just find that hard to believe.
And he changed his voice, but it's like a very generic voice. But he was fine. And then, is there anyone else that we haven't talked about in this stupid movie?
I don't think there's anybody else.
Oh, thank God.
Let's move on. Because it really, in fact, I think we should go to the spoilers because there's nothing much to say.
Well, let's give it a rating.
Nothing happened. Nobody could act.
Yeah.
The music wasn't even good. They usually, God, if you remember the movie with what was it? That guy.
The other movie, whatever.
With the
there's been
the
lots of
music
Batman movies.
I downloaded the music to my playlist. It was so good and rich, and there was nothing really very forgettable songs. And at the very end, they did play some Batman. You could tell from other Batmans, like some kind of theme, kind of stringed in there. And that was it.
Yeah, it was like they were desperate. They just kept playing the same old songs over and over.
Well, they didn't amount to anything.
Very similar, very, very anticlimactic.
This movie really, it was almost like they were trying to put you to sleep.
I know. Well, I almost fell asleep, except for I was doing other things while I was watching it, kind of, because I just had to. Because if not, I would have fallen asleep.
Okay, well, I'd give it some, which I don't like. I know a lot of people like it or they eat it, but Kraft macaroni and cheese is boring. I like homemade macaroni and cheese. You can add spices and you can make the cheese a lot richer and the noodles bigger with lots of thick sauce. Like it would have volume and character. And with the spices, add more to the character of macaroni and cheese. But Kraft is just really boring. But I know a lot of people eat it even in our house. just as a side, but to a lot of other things. So that's what I give it. I don't like it. So
I would give it. We got a Vincent Price cookbook. We got the wrong one. We got some sort of a one where it's a cookbook where it talks about recipes from different times and times from the past. And there was this one recipe that Safi tried out, and it was called Brunswick stew. And it was terrible. It was so gross.
And I think Brunswick stew is pretty good.
And boring.
They just didn't have all the ingredients.
It was literally like chicken broth, beans, chicken, and tomato and celery. And guys, it's probably one of the grossest soups I've ever had. It was so generic. It had no flavor. It was so boring. It was like, this is like old people food. And it just, none of the elements worked. It was just a huge disaster. And that's what this movie was. It was a huge disaster. It was not Batman. It was like, this movie was like a fan film. Like, if this movie was on YouTube.
I don't even know if it was a fan film.
If you could believe, like, some college kid who's full of shit made this movie is like a fan film, that would have been fine to me. But the fact that this was funded for millions of dollars from the studio, it just, this was terrible. Absolutely terrible. Terrible.
Okay, well,
spoiler alert.
Okay, now I guess we'll do some spoilers.
Batman can't even fly either. I mean, they had a flying scene where he's like just drifting around, and he can't fight, and he just gets beat up, and there's so much to talk about. Like, just it's so
actually,
bad.
There's nothing to talk about because there's just nothing to say about it except that it was no good.
Yeah, there is, because like you have the one thing with Alfred where Alfred gets a package.
Oh, okay.
And the package, guys, Alfred literally has studied this handwriting. He's seen it all over the place.
He had to do these puzzles.
Did the word puzzle, and there's a package right there.
That was addressed to Batman for his eyes only.
It literally has the Riddler's handwriting right on the package. And I could clearly tell. And I only saw the handwriting for a couple of split seconds. I could clearly tell that package is from the Riddler.
Well, see, another thing, too, because I want to mention it because it was the only good thing I liked about the movie.
I wanted to finish.
Well, I know that, but he had written some cards at the beginning of the movie too, and that had the same handwriting. So it was, I don't know if Alfred saw the cards, but still, he had done other things that showed his handwriting. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, you like the cards.
I love the cards.
That's the only thing.
I would love to have cards like that.
The only thing you liked in the movie.
Yeah, that's the only thing I liked were the cards. They were really good. I wish Marco would make. Marco's really good at doing stuff like that. I wish he'd do it.
Alfred saw this package, clearly had the Riddler's handwriting on it, and he thought that the best idea would be to open it up. And of course, as I knew right when I saw it, it was a bomb. And he exploded. And then he was still alive, and he's just this weak, pathetic old Alfred.
Yeah, but the thing, wait a minute, the thing about that is they showed him in the hospital. I would never have known that he opened a package that exploded.
It was like the explosion didn't do anything.
It didn't do anything. I didn't get it.
It's funny because the same thing happens earlier in the movie where Batman is solving this riddle round of questions with the district attorney, and Batman knowingly stands right in front of him when he knows that guy's going to explode. And then he falls back, he gets exploded, and it does nothing to him. Like, it literally doesn't do anything to him. Aside,
that's really a bad thing, I think, because that shows people like, I don't know what kid is going to watch this movie. It's so boring.
Oh.
They'd be acting out and driving their parents crazy.
Kids are going to sleep watching this
Well, they're not going to sleep.
movie.
They're going to act out and want to get the hell out
I
of
would
there.
want to act out. I want to act out right now because I hate this movie so much.
Well, anyway, never mind. It was just
What?
really boring, and I forgot what I was going to say.
Well, there were 2 instances where explosions didn't affect people at all.
Oh, well, I was trying to say, I think that's dangerous, because, like, let's say on 4th of July, they tell you not to hold, some people get a bottle rocket, and they hold them in their hands and light them, and let them go out. Well, that's those things can explode in your face. Or they hold a firecracker and see how long they can do it before.
And their hand
they've blown off their hands.
gets blown apart.
That's called that is an explosion too. It may be a different kind.
It's a small explosion.
It is
compared to
these things were pretty big.
Yeah.
And I mean, somebody opening a package. You remember the Unabomber, right?
They died.
I mean, he's like, I wonder if he sees this movie like, what the hell?
Yeah, I know. Wouldn't that be funny
know?
if the Unabomber saw this movie and he'd be like, God, this is not very realistic.
Yeah, and so I really think that was dangerous. If they wanted to make things, they wanted to tone everything down so much it was boring. That was the time to make that part boring and make the rest exciting.
I want to make this movie explode. Like, I want to get a Blu-ray copy that I find in the dumpster and then put a firecracker in it and watch it explode.
I don't want to waste my money.
No, I said find it in the dumpster.
Oh, well.
Behind Best Buy or something.
Or find it at the bins.
And so, but another thing was that right off the bat, I knew I already solved the case before the movie even started. Because they did all these interviews where they said that, like, his parents, like, they have some sort of a dark past, some sort of a corruption thing. And so I already knew before the movie even started what the answers were going to be. But then right off the bat, they had this debate with, a white male mayoral candidate and then a progressive candidate. And she was telling him about the whatever the fund was, the Wayne Fund, and right off the bat mentioning that Wayne Fund, I knew, that's what's going on in this movie. What's going to go on is that people are take money from the fund. They're all corrupt, and it all started with his father. Like, wow, that's so smart. That's so groundbreaking. In this movie, it was like a horror movie, according to people. This was not a horror movie either. It was like, you'd be horrified at how bad it is. That's the only thing.
Yeah, well, I don't know what else there's to say. I really don't want to say anything else.
Oh, I do. Well, then they have this person at the very end playing the Joker off screen, and he's probably the worst Joker I've ever seen from, like, the 2 seconds he was there. If this is going to be the Joker in a sequel, then I'd rather jump off a cliff than watching that. What is it going to be, a 6-hour-long movie then with that one?
I don't know.
Probably. But just nothing happened in this movie. Like, okay, that's the last thing that I wanted to mention was this whole movie felt like it took place in, like, one neighborhood. Like, this did not feel like it took place in a city. It felt like this is the Batman's neighborhood, like Mr. Roger. Now, instead of Mr. Roger, it's Batman. And this is the Batman's neighborhood. And it's just like one street, and you have the police station, the Iceberg Lounge, and like one other city hall, whatever the F, and that's it. Like, they just go to the same settings over and over and over and over again. It's like, God, stop going to these settings.
In a church.
Go to a different setting once in a while. Like, geez. In the Batman Begins, he traveled all the way around the world, and they had all these distinct places they talked about. Oh, this area of Gotham is Blackgate. and here's Arkham in Gotham, and here's this place in Gotham. And it was like, you could tell it was a city. This was not a city. It was a neighborhood. Batman's little neighborhood with his little tokenized characters and destroyed characters who aren't the characters from the comics. So this movie sucked.
Okay. Well,
so
I think we have to move on now.
Yeah.
And so goodbye, everybody.
No, you have
please
to say...
Please press the like button if you like this video, and subscribe, because we always love to have new subscribers. If you've seen the movie, tell us what you think, and let's be honest, okay? Let's not say we really like it because we don't want to offend Twilight Boy, because he doesn't care. Believe me.
No, he doesn't care.
And
made all the money from all the fanboys going to see the movie.
And then
multiple times.
We just like having a discussion about things, and I think that's a good thing. And so that's it.
Goodbye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.